Welcome to Beyond the Frame Initiative. We are three diverse women working to elevate wellness for all of us through exploring facts over feelings in parenting, politics, and everything in between.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Frame Initiative. I'm Rachel here with my co-hosts,
Julie
and Robyn.
And before we get started, I'd like to ask you, what has got you up and down today, ladies? What's going on?
Robyn, you want to share? You've got some of the biggest news.
Sure. Well, I am a new mama, and what's got me up is the fact that I'm even here, okay? Because I have a almost 7-week-old downstairs who's napping, I hope, and a 3-year-old as of today. It's her birthday. So it's a lot of milestones and a lot of craziness going on over here. And what's got me down is, let's turn on the news. It's everywhere. Just pick one. Pick one headline at this point. That's kind of what's going on. Julie?
Yep, I'm going to take that down from you and say that's exactly what's going on here. It's a lot. There's a lot of hateful actions happening out there, and that's heavy. It's hard to feel up when you feel like there's no place to just rest. There's no place to land. But what's got me up is, hope. Looking at the little ones, knowing that the arc of justice curves toward good. So holding on to that. What about you, Rachel?
Same with the down thing, guys. Come on, it's not rocket science. But what's got me up is that outside of my son's window, we created a beauty garden because we're on the first floor in an apartment building. It just kind of looks at the wall in the next alley that the neighbors drive through. And so we got some shelving outside and we've put some plants and stuff, and they're growing, and there's a bird feeder. And so they come outside of my kid's room, the birds, and they peck, and so cute, and they got the flowers going. And so I don't have the greenest of thumbs, but I feel like he and I are doing a good job at making this possible. So that's makes me happy. Growing things.
Yeah, nature. It's great.
Nature. Yes.
A good balance.
A good balance. Yes, we need that. We need a balance.
Yes, we do.
All right. So, ladies, I want to talk to you today about a topic that really, really bothers me, okay? It's plantations as wedding venues versus concentration camps as memorials. So, as we know, plantations are tied to Black suffering and trauma, but those are used for weddings and parties. Meanwhile, Nazi concentration camps are treated as sacred memorials and museums. This last spring in Louisiana, a plantation burnt down, and I was shocked to see some people's reactions. They were like, oh my goodness, this part of history, burning down, so beautiful, so devastated, what a loss. I was completely having a different experience than some of the other experiences that I was hearing. And in my opinion, this really highlights a blind spot in America. Plantations are a painful history for many Black Americans. I'm going to repeat. Plantations are a painful history for many Black Americans. So let's think about Germany for a moment. Concentration camps, memorials, museums. Completely normal. It should be that way. But in the U.S., plantations built by slaves become party venues. Why is that? I'm thinking to myself, is the ability to celebrate at a plantation without thinking of its violent past a reflection of privilege? Or are we at a point that we are refusing to confront and or deal with this part of American history? So I'd like to talk about whitewashing plantation history and what that means today for Black Americans. So what are your thoughts, ladies?
Well, when you talk about it down to the root, there's a whitewashing of America in American history, especially right now. A literal attempt, not hiding it, not covert, to erase the erasure of Black, brown, people of color all around, and how they've contributed and built this country. And I think what is so bothersome is that it feels like this excuse of, well, we don't want our children to feel bad. That's not how children operate. That is something that's impressed upon them. Children feel sad because it's a sad thing, or they feel shocked because it's a shocking thing. That's for anybody. But to focus in or to imply that children who are white can't handle the truth is also a slap in the face to Black children. And to basically say, I don't care how it makes you feel that your ancestors built this, suffered so much. And we basically are just saying, it's not about you, it's about us. That main character syndrome it hurts every single person. And I really hope that this season that we're in, people understand like racism is a costly thing. Any kind of ism, right? Sexism, racism, all of those, they are costly to everybody, not just, not just the people of color.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. There's no such thing as a good prejudice. It's just, it's wrong. And yeah, I feel like we're not just at a point where we are trying to say that everything that happened was in the past and it's okay. We've been at that point. From the time of the Emancipation Proclamation, there's been active pushbacks against any kind of movement forward in civil rights. And it's always been there, but we have these periods in time where there's large pushbacks, right? And we are certainly there right now. I think that the only way it's going to get better is if we do start educating our children, and children are absolutely able to learn about the truth of what happened. Children have a natural sense of justice, of fairness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I tell my daughter often, because I've heard people say this to me when I was growing up. I'm sure you guys have all heard that life isn't fair. Well, you know what? It should be. Life should be fair. So if it's not fair, how do we change it? How do we bring it back?
I mean, I think it's really hard. I think it's really hard to bring something back when people refuse to confront the reality. And that even just goes as basic as, someone saying, I couldn't be racist. I have black friends. I couldn't be, I couldn't be homophobic. My cousin is gay. Like that means nothing. That literally is the worst kind of scapegoat. And I think what I'm finding that I'm seeing a lot of is people are finally openly catching on to like, oh, y'all been playing this same page from this same playbook over and over and over again. And finally, people are like, I'm catching on to your schemes and I don't like it and I don't want to participate anymore. Unfortunately, we still live in such an individualistic society that people don't really care unless it affects them directly. And that's, I think, is the hardest hump to come over. I was just talking to my husband about this. There's like a cartoon called Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and it's this based off of this comic book. It's a black character, and it's amazing. It's so cool. And I was telling him, I was like, why is it that I grew up, you had no choice but to relate to the characters you saw, and most of them were white. And you never got to say like, oh, I can't relate. I can't see myself through your experience. And I never even thought otherwise. Like if anything, I felt a closer affiliation to black stories, but I never felt like, oh, I don't know what it means to like have peer pressure. I don't know. I didn't think like that. But white people, not all, of course, I want to make it very clear, not all. If it don't apply, let it fly, okay? But for the people who can't seem to understand that you don't have to turn the channel because you can't see yourself reflected, because people of color always faced with that. And you can tell that makes them uncomfortable, because the minute you start seeing more programming with people of color, it's y'all are trying to replace us. You're trying to get rid of us. What about our stories? What about, and it's just kind of like, that's just not how the game is. That's not how the game is rigged in America. It is a straight white men's game to win. Like you are propped up to win. If you lose, that's on you. Right. And I think that's hard to embrace.
100%. 100%. And that's the reason why people can just walk into some of these plantations and be like, I want to have my wedding here. I mean, that is literally how we have gotten to this point. Like I remember going to a concentration camp, and like I couldn't even imagine how energetically that would feel if you're having like a celebration. It's such a wild concept to me that is normalized here in America, that we can just do that, and that it's just like, how do you do that? I'm curious to know, like people that have actually been married at, plantations. I don't even think it was a thought. There's no way you can't even talk, because it's like, like it drives me nuts, right? How do you even in good faith walk onto this space and land, knowing it was built by slaves, knowing that like the trauma and history behind it? Or I don't even know if it actually is a thought. That's what I'm thinking. Like because of all this erasure, because of not really sort of being able to confront the history that we've had in this country, like there's not black history, right? It's American history. And that fact that we won't deal with that we have to separate. We're always constantly separating, right? And there's like black history and American history. The shit is the same, right? And so Yes, that is like that. It's like something that really baffles me, and bring it to you because I really want to try to understand, like, how have we gotten to this point? You ever go to a concentration camp? There's no way you're going to think, oh, I want to have a party here. Like,
As
and
it should
also
be.
the countries
Yeah.
would never even allow that, right? 'Cause you wouldn't even allow
Yeah.
it. It's not even a thing.
Right. And it
But
should be that.
absolutely, absolutely. But I think two things that you brought up that like sent a signal through me. Like, one, we have to, like the Black History thing, you can't start in the middle, you gotta start at the beginning. Black History,
Right.
HBCUs, all those things were born out of necessity because there was no
Mhm.
one willing to make space for us. The reason you have, these different months that celebrate different cultures is because people refuse to think, like when they think America, they think white. That's just what it is. They
Right.
assimilate whiteness to America, and people don't know how to pull those identities apart or to pull back and understand that there's more to the fabric. Like, that's what America professes to be, but it's very obvious in these days and times that that's actually not what they ever wanted it to be. I mean, I think we kind of knew, but I think when we are in an era where the quiet part is being said out loud, it's
Mm.
not surprising necessarily, but it's kind of like, so who's gonna get this train back on track? Like, what's happening?
Right.
And I think if you ask anybody who had families who shared their history in Germany, they didn't just instantly go to that place. They didn't just instantly start, raining terror on a group of people. It happened over time, just like it's happening right
Right.
here, right now. And I will say it to the rooftops, we cannot ever afford to not share our history, period, because we are living
Yeah.
through. If you don't teach it, you are bound to repeat it. If you don't learn from it, now we all got to learn together. And hopefully, obviously, we're hoping that things come to a halt before it gets,
Mhm.
super crazy. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you sit and you look around and you're like, this is how it happened. People
Mhm.
bending the knee, people not speaking up. The voices that you thought would fight for the people, they're not fighting for the people. They're fighting for their pocketbooks. They're
Mhm.
fighting for their purse strings. They've made loyalties that now you're so deep in it, you can't come out of it. You know what I mean? And I don't understand how people didn't learn from the first administration run that you are under someone who does not care about you. He will cut you off and keep it pushing if you're not
Yeah,
serving him.
man.
It was obvious the first time, right? And I know I'm going off, but it all ties back that
Mhm.
if you live under a regime where someone is actively saying, I don't want to go to the Museum of Black History and feel this way, it shouldn't be about the slavery. It should be about other stuff. Why not? It's a part of the story of America. It's literally part of the culture of America. And if we can learn to embrace it, then we can never
Mhm.
have to look back and
Yeah.
think that it could happen again, think that it's possible
Yes.
to happen again. And if someone can walk on a plantation and not feel a heaviness, not feel a reverence for the people who suffered
Mhm.
there, and instead see beauty and like, oh my God, I would love to take my bridesmaid pictures here. That's weird. That's weird as
Mhm.
hell. Like, what are you
It's
talking
weird as
about?
that.
What are you
Yeah, I
talking
feel like
about?
there
Yeah.
it is all connected, because if you're going to allow that kind of disconnect emotionally from what has
Right.
happened, that people were murdered, tortured, I mean, sadistic things happened on these. And plantations is a misleading word. This was a slavery holding, right? This was
Yes.
Right.
human trafficking. You're
Yes.
going to this place where there was slavery, where there was human trafficking, and you're using it as a celebration. And I feel like there's such a desensitization to Black trauma in our country. I would challenge people who may even be thinking about this. Maybe you're out there and you're looking at these plantations and you're thinking, well, it's pretty and it's in the past. Think about this. If World War II internment camps, where over 100,000 Americans who had Japanese ethnicity and over 10,000 of German ethnicity were turned into Sweet 16 party venues, how would you feel about your kid being there?
Mhm.
If you were to find out they were going to take the Trail of Tears, where over 80,000 indigenous people were forced to walk thousands of miles, many of them dying. And just, side note, over 10 million, indigenous people are estimated to have died from either disease or murder from the time of colonialization till the inception in the US. If you were to take the Trail of Tears and turn it into a 4th of July parade, how would you feel?
Right.
And in Ireland, which is not in America, But in Ireland, where there were, over 1 million people who died during the potato famine, and some buried alive by the English in fields, if those fields were used for high, tea, how would you feel about that? And they're not. They have commemorations there.
Right.
They've
Right.
torn down statues of English military leaders in order to honor the pain and the suffering and the trauma that the Irish experienced under the occupation of the English for hundreds of years. Now, let's talk about Black people. Can we have that same empathy for what happened there, right? You have something like over 12 million people just in the slave trade, the Middle Passage. We're just going to talk about European ships, and there were more that came over to America. Millions of them died, and they didn't even really track. It was like between 1 to 2.5 million. That's how expendable those lives were. They didn't even think about when people are shipping products. They track that, right?
Right.
And they come over, and then once they're here, they're raped, tortured. The worst thing that can happen, their children are taken from them by force. That is the worst thing you can do to anyone. They are experimented on by scientists. And think of any other sadistic thing that could happen to them on those plantations. It was done to them, and yet here we are. There's some that are being held as wedding venues, and we should be doing what they are doing in Germany. When you have like an 8th grader, have them go to a plantation that has been turned into a true historical monument that talks about the real horrific terrors of slavery. History is important.
Oh, so good, Joy. It's so true.
Sorry, I went on a tangent.
No,
like, yes.
This is exactly what this space is for, and I think that it's good for people to see, like, you don't have to be a Black person to know some facts. Google is free, babes. It's right there, and they need to see people of different hues, different backgrounds, and see that there's value in it, right? Like, the story has value, and it's not just a story. An experience has value. And I think that, for a long time, people just didn't want to think about the pain. Even Black people, they're like, I don't want to see any more slave movies. I don't want us to just be captured in, no, that's a terrible word to use, but I don't want us to just be seen in that light, right? And the truth of the matter is, yes, we are people. We have human experiences like everyone else. However, because of that, you don't have a whole bunch of people showing roots. Roots should be like a required watch.
Yes.
Like, that should be a required watch for you to, I don't even know, 8th grade maybe, like, you need to watch those things to understand, to begin to even get a scrape of what that suffering looked like, felt like, and to shield your children is not doing them a service, right? Because that's why you have, like, I think some people really feel like these ways of thinking will kind of go away with the people who are older, and it'll be gone.
Right.
And that's just not true. That's obviously not true, because guess what? They teach that to their children and their grandchildren, and they believe it. Like, that is their way of life. The superiority complex is a way of life, because it's only a superiority complex that could allow you to lack the amount of empathy that it would take to step into a space like that and not literally feel something in your bones, and
Robyn,
go ahead.
I would say this is making me think about what that gentleman said to you at the coffee shop. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit. And I have some thoughts around that. And he was really trying to connect, right?
But the guy was trying to be nice, and he was trying to, I don't even know if I would say he was trying to be politically correct. I really felt like he did not see an error in what he said, but he definitely tried to excuse some of the things that have happened in the past. And I thought, because he was being open, like, he wasn't closed off, he wasn't being like bullheaded. I felt like it was an opportunity to be like, well, we can't just glaze over like slavery and the things and the harm that it's done. You can't just like, you can't just kind of wrap it in a bow and put it in the corner. You have to face it head on. And I think when you're speaking to someone who's open to talking about it, and they're coming from a different perspective, there's opportunity there to maybe meet in the middle, but ultimately, like, Black people, it's not our job to hold anybody's hand and teach them history. And what bugs me the most is, like, in 2020, I feel like that was the first time people were sat down and they had to see things that they just refused to believe were true. They were forced to
Yeah.
see, like, the things that the community has been saying. We weren't just saying that because, like, this is literally an experience that we have and we are constantly re-traumatized over and over and over again. And it's almost like ever since then, I don't know, some people learned and got better, but some people I'm like, y'all still didn't get it, huh? We're gonna go through this something similar again. And I don't know what it would take for this country to do right by the blood that was shed.
Recognizing.
Yeah.
Recognizing it, talking about it, and saying that it's part of our history. It's a dark side of our history, but we need to talk about it. We need to recognize it. We need to make memorials and dedicate it to the lives lost in the slave trade. We can do so much more, right? There's
Yeah,
just it's not
absolutely.
about like it's not, you're right, it's not the responsibility of Black people to educate everyone else. It is, I mean, it would be nice to have a government that actually supports that healing process. Right? It would be nice to have leaders that support that healing process. Would go a long way. Educational departments, not per state, you know. I mean, some states
Yeah.
are definitely more liberal and have, you know, more Black studies, right, than other states. Like it has to be samesies, right? We all have to get on board and say the way to go past this is to go through it by accepting this is what happens, not, you know, memorialize and celebrating all these, like, you know, Confederate soldiers that were harmful. They were not good people. Okay,
And
so your
also the
grandpappy
South
fought
did
in the
not
war,
win. They
and the South
lost.
didn't win.
They
And then, you
lost.
know, there was no like reprimanding toward the generals and all these soldiers that tried to overthrow and, like, you know, maintain the slavery status quo. No, in fact, they just kind of walked free, and there was no consequences, right? And I think that also is a problem, right? Instead, you get statues in parks and Confederate memorials and fucking like graveyards dedicated to these folks. And it's like, okay, well, they tried to uphold a terrible system and yet are still celebrated in the afterlife. I can go there now and see that, right?
Yeah.
It's wild to me. So that's a problem. And you know, Julie, you brought something up about when you know, like just talking about like the slave boats that came over and the millions of lives lost and how
Right.
you can have the lack of tracking. Do you know that the only boats that I learned about in school was like the Mayflower and like all these other
Mhm.
boats that came from
Which
Europe, but I can
brought the first slaves, right?
yes, right,
19. So
right,
you
but
didn't learn
not
about that though, right?
no, and not I didn't learn about any of these boats, these slave boats that lost thousands and thousands of people. I can't even name one.
Oh, millions.
Millions,
No,
Millions.
yes,
even
millions of
And then
people,
think
right?
of
Like
and a lot of them
how
you're
were
not
many
taught
burnt
about that.
down. There's a lot that were burnt down that, like, I think just in the recent, like, maybe 20 years, they found, like, the Clotilda,
Right.
and stuff like that. So it's like, just imagine how much stuff they tried to erase. You don't have to work that
That's the
hard. Just like
problem.
currently right now, you don't
Mhm.
have to work that hard unless it's something you're trying to hide, right?
Right.
We're
Well, and
literally
slavery
living in
lasted
that
for
right now.
right. And slavery lasted for over 400 years, right? Well, not sorry.
Well,
It's
no.
been 400 years, sorry,
Right,
since
Yes.
yeah.
slavery started. That's what I meant to say. But when slavery ended, there were something like 4 million estimated slaves. Think about how many died in the hundreds of years there was slavery. Would never. There's no counting
No.
because they didn't have value. Their lives didn't have value, right? There were millions, I'm sure, who were murdered
Right.
and those who weren't murdered in cold blood were worked to death throughout their lives.
Right.
They had no
Right.
freedom. And I think about what that man said to you in the restaurant where he was saying, well, you know, there's some people who maybe were slave owners and it was just a business opportunity. I want to be very clear. A benevolent slave owner is an oxymoron. Think about human trafficking. That is a money-making business right now. If you are in human trafficking, I don't care if you're in it for the business, you have no moral compass. You are not benevolent. It is not okay that you're in it just for the business. These are sadistic people. I mean, think anybody who's listening out there has had a jerk for a boss at some point, right? Now
Right.
imagine they owned you. Okay, and
Right.
they're a jerk, but now like think about the people who are attracted to
Mhm.
owning human flesh, right? These are humans. I just want to make that clear. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as a benevolent slave owner.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
It doesn't.
And I think that
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing is people have to be able to see themselves in someone that doesn't look like them. That's really, to me, where it
Mm.
begins.
Yeah.
You can't look at me and be like, well, I can't relate because you're a Black woman. I'm a human. You're a human. Imagine someone taking your newborn baby out of your arms and you never ever see them again and you have no way to find them or to track them. And you already know that something terrible is going to happen to them and you can't protect them. Imagine what that does to not, I mean, obviously to parents, but to a mother.
Oh
I
my
could
gosh.
not imagine.
Mhm.
I could not. How can you stay sane? How can you stay sane
Yeah.
when something like that happens? And you don't have to have a certain shade of skin to relate to that. And I think that's really where a lot of the
Yeah.
issues stem from because people, for some reason, can't see themselves in it. Whereas when you're a person of color, when you're Black, when you're Indigenous, you have no choice. You literally most likely are born with an empathy chip just because of the experience or the trauma that's
Mhm.
passed down
Mhm.
in your bloodline. You have no choice but to say,
Yeah.
like, that could be my mom, that could be my sister, my father, my brother, my uncle, my cousin. You can't see stuff on TV and not feel something. Doesn't mean you got to burst into tears every time you see something tragic. No. But I don't look at something that happens to someone and say, well, I can't relate because I'm not a white, blonde, blue-eyed girl. That doesn't even cross my
Right.
mind. It just, and most children, that does not cross their mind. They see a friend who's in pain, they feel something for that friend, no matter
Yeah.
what they look like. It's adults who impress
Human
them.
to human.
It's adults who
Yeah.
ruin it. Honestly, they're the
Yeah.
ruiners
Yeah.
sometimes.
And
Ruiners.
for the Christians out there that are okay with all this stuff happening, you cannot serve two masters. So
Amen.
we're not a follower of Christ. If you're going to say, well, yeah, I know Jesus said that, but, we're going to use our own thinking to justify this kind of evil. It's
Yeah.
not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think I honestly, I mean, I think because of slavery and because of, what happened in concentration camps, I don't even understand how people can't correlate that these are genocides that happen, even if they weren't in the same country, and how you can't see that, like, they're not the same, but the suffering, the erasure of people, quite literally, the unaliving of people, uh, it's just, there's no, I don't know. To me, my brain just doesn't even know how you cannot feel the injustice, right? It's just unreal. It honestly is. And I pray that our children can grow up in a world where it just is what it is. It just is a thing that has happened, a terrible thing that has happened, a thing we never want to happen again. And so we have to talk about it. You're not reliving
Yes.
it. I'm not
About it.
pointing at you and saying, hey, Tom, you did this to my great, great, great. I didn't say that. Okay. It might have been your great,
Hmm.
great, great granddaddy that had something to do with it, but it's not you. And I hope that because
Right.
of that, you would never want to do that. You know what I mean? Like I
It's
don't
like the
know.
basic when you know better, you do better. It's very
Yeah,
simple. That's why I tell them when you know better, you do better. And
yeah,
how do you know better? By learning, by studying
Right.
experiences or experiencing it yourself, or in this case, understanding that history is so valuable and the erasing it is not going to make us better. It is not. It is going to be, it's going to make things worse. I think because
Hmm.
we need to connect. Like we can't divorce each other, right?
Yeah.
We are together. I mean, you can go somewhere else and be on your own farm or whatever, like, but we are together. We are connected and
Mhm.
we have to learn about each other. And that's when people like, you just got to get over the slavery, get over it. How do you get over it when it's never even you can't even talk about it or like it's being erased? And that is the problem well, I have a lot of problems with this administration, but that is one
right.
of the problems that I have with this administration is right. Like, so
But I
it
mean,
drives me nuts.
but I mean, even before this administration, we put a lot of weight on this administration. All these things were there. They just say, like I
Mhm.
said earlier, they just say the quiet part out loud.
Right.
I
Sure.
think it's
Yeah.
also to address slavery in the
You're
beginnings
right.
and what happened to
You're
indigenous
right.
people. Then you have to address the systemic things that still exist today. And people don't want to
Mhm.
hear that. People don't want to
Mm-hmm.
hear you might be a little racist. Maybe you weren't aware of your biases. We all have biases, but you might be a little racist and you didn't see it that way. But if you don't want to be racist, if you want to be a better person, if
Right.
you want to move through this world,
Yeah.
making it a better place than what you left in, confront it,
Yeah.
work on it. Like, we all got some kind of unhealed trauma we working through, right? But I don't exert mine on other
Hmm.
people intentionally. I don't go around spreading negativity to people who don't look like me just because they don't look like me. That's just like, who has that kind of time? I'm a mom. I don't have that kind of time or energy. Like, You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to keep my head straight, make sure I take a shower every day. Like, that's, I mean,
Yeah.
I just hope that all the free time people have to spew hate, that they would pour that kind of energy into making this world a better place, and
Yes.
unfortunately, I was saying this up before the election. I think that people literally get addicted to the drama, the chaos. Like, there are people who literally just want to see chaos and they don't want to
Yes.
peel back the layers and get to the core. And it's like, I don't want to be in a reality show. I want to watch it and turn it off when I'm done. I want like things to make sense. I want to take I grew up in DC. I grew up in the DC area. I'm a DMV baby. And being able to go to the Smithsonian was amazing, right? And I could only imagine if we had that museum when I was a kid, how much that would have meant to me and my classmates, and to be able to talk about it and like to have, things that kind of brought it all back. Like, it makes you better. It makes you better so you
Yeah.
move
Yes.
through life treating
Yes.
people better,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yes.
It does. It makes
So
you more loving too. If you
It
raise your kids
does.
with this stuff,
Yeah. Empathy,
makes you
guys. We're talking about empathy. Is that what we're talking about?
yeah,
Just it's
empathy,
so important,
absolutely.
right?
Empathy.
Empathy.
The word of the podcast today is empathy.
empathy. And if for those white people out there, or not white people who, but still are racist. I mean, there's lots of people who are racist against Black people too, but there's a lot of white people out there who, when they hear white people, when they hear that term and they say, "Here, white people need to do this," or "white people are," they get defensive and they're like, "I'm not racist," and they don't listen. If you're not racist, you don't have to feel defensive. If you're feeling a little bit defensive, if you're feeling a little bit guilty, just ask yourself why. Like, it's okay. Like, let's be introspective. Like, why am I feeling yucky right now? Is it because I don't want to talk about this because it feels like a really bad thing and I just want to have peace in my life? Okay. But then how can you bring peace about for everyone? If it's really about love, if it's really about peace, how can you pull that out? How can you help by having this conversation? You can have it in a very loving way. Or if you're feeling yucky because you know that you were raised around this stuff and it's hard and you're not sure, because there's a lot of, like, when we think about how we're raised, there's a lot of culture there in how we're raised. So if you were raised in a culture that made you feel like there were all these racist truths, like, Black people are lazy, that Black people didn't work hard, nobody did this. And these are not true. And you can look into history to see the purposeful and systematic racism that has kept down people. And if you don't want to look into it, then that's where, like, you just like where you're at. You want to be stuck in that space. And that's a hard place. I can't imagine people wanting that, because that's an ignorant place. That's a hateful place. I mean, there are some really good books you can go out and read. The 1619 Project, which talks about the origins of slavery. And this is an excellent history book. I've read many history books by white men in my studies, and all she's doing is repeating the things they've said, but she's a Black woman. So this book got a lot of flack, but she does such a beautiful job because she takes the time frame and just focuses on one thing at a time. Like, for instance, financially, it wasn't until, I think, our grandparents, when Black people in America could actually pass on their money to their children. And it didn't just go back to the state, so you couldn't have generational wealth before. That's just a tiny little tidbit, but she goes through that. She goes through the education system, and she keeps recapping it. And it can be hard to hear. It was hard for me to listen to because of you're just hearing about the evil that has been done over and over again, but it's so important to understand and to really be able to connect with what's happened in our country. And I knew the majority of stuff that she talked about. There were some new things in there that, even though I know shouldn't be shocking, were shocking. It's a very, very, very good book. And there's another really good book. Sorry, I just want to talk about these.
No,
It's called Cast: The Origins of Our Disconnects by Isabel Wilkerson, who really connects how slavery in America was a platform that was studied by the men in Germany who would bring about Nazi Germany. And then you loop it back around to when the Nazis were in court, they used the laws in America to segregate the disabled or rowdy women as their defense in the courtrooms. This stuff is all connected. And even if you feel like lost and you're not sure who to ask, you can go to these books. You can start there, and then you can have conversations, and you can ask the questions, and you can do better by your kids, and you can really raise some beautiful human beings who love.
You have to be
And I
willing.
just want to say one thing for anybody who says there's slavery all over the world. Chattel slavery is not the same as
Right.
other slavery.
That
Other
is
slavery,
not.
and I'm
Yes.
not an expert. Please don't misunderstand me, anybody who's watching.
You're right.
But chattel slavery is its own
Yes.
situations. It is not even, it's not the same as I need you to work until you pay off this debt. No, no, no.
Yeah.
No, no, no. So when people say stuff like, oh, there was slavery all over the world. No, no. Pick up a book, okay? Stop listening to talking points that you're getting from your podcast bros and really do the work. Like, that's really what it comes down. You have to do the work. You have to want to learn. And unfortunately, we're in a society where people, they don't want to learn, right? Like you said, Julie, they want to stay in that comfortable, uncomfortable, because it's not touching them on a daily basis. And I hope that someone hears this and is inspired to look it up. Just look it up.
Yeah.
Because
Listen
we
and
want you with us.
listen to Black people when they tell you, when we say we don't bat an eyelash when we hear certain things, it's because we have
Yeah.
been traumatized and re-traumatized over and over again so much that it's not that we don't care. It's just that we've been trying to tell y'all. We've been trying to share this is going on. This isn't new for us. It's not new, okay? So I'm so sorry if it's causing you an inconvenience, but imagine that being your life. Right? Imagine finding out, having to take that shield off and understand the people who look like you, who people will just judge you off of nothing but the color of your skin, or say things like, you speak so well. Had that experience before. The microaggressions that exist, the looks like you don't belong in this area that exists, it is a real thing. It is not something made up. And so when people say, well, why do you have a victim mentality? I'm sorry. Are you projecting? I'm telling you the facts.
Right.
I'm telling you the facts. Which makes me think, if we're getting to a place, I think that this is a perfect time to talk about something that I like to get into called facts over feeling. This is a fact. I was listening to a podcast recently, and it was some white guys, and they were talking about how, when they learned about slavery, they didn't feel triggered, right? Like, they didn't feel guilty because they know they didn't do it. And they say, you know what? If you hear about slavery and you feel something, you might want to wonder why you feel that. Just take a second and think about, why does that trigger you so much? Are you reincarnated? Did you do it the first time and you don't want to be called out? What's the problem? Right? Because it's not about how you feel at the end of the day. The fact of the matter is that an atrocity is happening, has happened, and will continue to happen until people put their foot down and say enough is enough. It shouldn't take it happening to you or to your child or to your family member or to you. It shouldn't take that. And for much too long, people have lacked accountability. You can't let your son, cousin, brother, sister off because, oh, well, that's family and, I don't want them to get in trouble. I don't want to ruin their future. What about the victim? What about the countless victims who, for a lifetime and then some, are constantly trying to put their lives back together? Tell that to the people of Oscarville. Tell that to the towns that were flooded by Lake Lanier. Tell that to the people of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 100-plus-year-olds who are still trying to get justice and proper reparations. Tell that to them. Tell them that their life isn't worthy of justice. And if you can do that and really sleep sound, then I don't know if there's anything that can help you. I truly, truly don't. But I do hope that if you listen this far, that you learn something, that you're curious enough to pick up a book or do a Google search, or hell, get on TikTok and scroll through, mess up your algorithm and start listening to voices that don't look like you. And you might just learn something. I so appreciate anybody who's here, who's been listening. If you feel something, I feel chills right now. If you feel something, share this with somebody. And don't just share with the people you know are going to agree. Share with someone who will disagree. And maybe it'll motivate them to change something. We love that we're trying to build a community of people who feel supported, who feel heard, who feel seen, who feel embraced. That is what we're here for. That's the only way this human experience can be better, can be sweeter, can be kinder, can be fuller. So on behalf of my co-hosts, I just want to say thank you for making it this far. Please subscribe to our channel, share it with someone you love. And if you look down in the description box, we'll have some resources, some PDFs you can look up. You can sign up for our email list, and we want you to take this journey with us. This is our first episode, okay? And we hope to have many, many, many more. So thank you so much. We hope to see you again. Anything else you got to say, ladies, before we go?
Nope. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. I'm so excited to be on this path with you all. It's
Me
great.
too.
Yay!
It's about love, everybody. We want to draw a big circle around you all. So come in.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Another
Bye.
little bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frame Initiative podcast. You can email us at info@beyondtheframeinitiative.com and receive a free facts over feeling sheet and more helpful links at our website. Thank you so much for supporting our podcast, and we'll see you soon.